album. You're with Julian on the brown note. Mikael Hafstrom from Sweden is a film director I know very little about and who hasn't set the world on fire. Apparently he did with the film Evil in Sweden in 2003, but the only other film I really know is is Escape Plan, a Sylvester Stallone starring Prison Break film, which was imaginative and okay. I wouldn't say it set the world on fire. It was reasonably decent though. But he's returned with a Netflix action film, Outside the Wire, starring Anthony Mackie, who I saw last night in The Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington. I'd got no idea how old he was then, but he looked like he was about 11. So him and basically it starts with Damson Idris, I think in his major film debut, as a drone pilot, and the whole of Europe has gone to war, and it's all painted very sort of cloyingly pro-America. You know, the Cold War's exploded, the whole middle region of Eastern Europe around Ukraine has gone to pot and is run by warlords, and America are there to keep the peace, and it's all very nasty. But at least it has got a reason for painting it like that, which it does come to fruition as the movie progresses. I think a movie like that where it painted America as this bold, noble peacekeepers just doesn't fly anymore. They've tried it with a few films over the last 10 years and it just doesn't work anymore. So Damson Idris is a drone pilot who breaks the rules when he goes into bat to defend a deployed group of American troops that come under immense fire from the local Ukrainian warlord, a guy that has actually blown up Kiev with a dirty bomb, killing tens of thousands of people. He believes that their squad is going to be blown up by a missile attack, so he unleashes a drone, killing 2 American soldiers against orders. And for his crime, he is sent to the front line because he's never ever been in action and he doesn't know the consequences of actually killing people in person or what that means to be in that environment. So his superiors send him to the front line to get perspective on what he's doing, which sounds reasonably fair. Bit like getting an executive to actually work the fat fryer at McDonald's. So he goes and he meets with Anthony Mackie, who is like a top black ops guy who delivers medication to these impoverished people in Ukraine, vaccines and the like, and along the way picks up information trying to get to this major warlord that's caused all the death and destruction. Very early on it's revealed that Anthony Mackie's character is in fact an android, an extremely advanced android. There are other android sort of Terminator robot soldiers that America now deploys and that Russia also has, which are like very sort of basic versions of a Terminator. He's like the T-2000 plus. He's like very, very human. No one would know. Driven by his own AI. And they basically head off into the wilderness through the war zone, outside the wire of this sort of UN compound thing. And their purpose is to find information leading to this warlord. But along the way, they have to deliver medication to the only other actor in it I knew, Emily Beecham, who's been in quite a few different things. She's sort of like the de facto leader of the opposition out there. Along the way, a number of interesting paradigms shift, and one of those is, it reminded me of Sicario. I won't give away the plot, even though it's not shocking. But in Sicario, when Emily Blunt's character realizes that she's been brought along because the CIA aren't allowed to operate inside America without a local law enforcement person. It's in a similar vein, not quite like that, but he comes to understand that Anthony Mackie's character, who is supposed to be a robot, who's supposed to be subordinate to humans, has a lot of thoughts on those issues himself based on moral obligations. Now, it's not got good reviews and it isn't a great film, but it's probably a lot better than many of the ones that came out last year. It's a lot better than was it Power Up, the Jamie Foxx one? I can't remember what that was called. That was so bad. Six Underground, Bloodsport, the one with Bloodshot, the one with Van Diesel. it's probably a nicer watch than those films. It's less gratingly bad, even though I had some time for some of those films. And also the one with Charlize Theron as well, that one I didn't like at all. This one is a little bit more even-tempered and even-handed. The characters kind of are alone a lot, which kind of reduces the bombast. The action sequences are actually really good. The mix of combat and mixing in these robots as well that are just another level above humans but not completely indestructible was a good idea. And the way the plot plays out eventually is actually quite rewarding. If anything, it plays it all a bit too with kids' gloves. It throws out some really sort of politically interesting themes. Like at one point, a major theme of the movie is the fact that actually America is only involved in conflicts like Ukraine, like it actually really was, in order to keep these conflicts going, to stymie Russia. And that's what they've done in Syria, and that's what they've done in Ukraine, and that's what they did in Afghanistan. It makes some pretty bold statements against American intervention in foreign countries, saying that it's nothing to do with peace. They just want these wars to continue indefinitely to destroy the status quo and make Russia suffer. And that's the truth. That's why they do it. And that's been proven time and again. And it makes massive statements like that, but it doesn't quite back it up. It kind of retreats. It's a little bit, I guess, PG in that area when it could slam it a lot more. But overall, the major theme around what the robot does is pretty decent, I thought. So it is a wayward screenplay, but it's not aggravatingly noisy all the time. There's a lot of downtime. There's some attempts at philosophical backwards and forwards between Mackie's character and the Idris character on the morality of what's going on. Obviously, the Idris character learns about the value of life, even though he was probably right in what he did in the first place. So I would say this is a slight recommend, because the action in it is actually really decent. It doesn't hang around too long. It's got some cool scenes in it. A lot of it's very predictable. You have been down this road a million times, a lot. But it was just, I enjoyed it for being much less bombastic than the last year or so of Netflix actioners. So I'm going to give Outside of the Wire a reasonably good 6.5 out of 10. It's slightly better than the critics are saying, and it's worth it. And Mackie, he doesn't always get the roles he deserves, because he is, even in great films like the Avengers films, I kind of feel like they just keep underwriting his character. He needs something with a lot of meat on his bones. If you've ever seen 911, criminally underrated film, if you give him a lot more to do emotionally, he just gets better and better. And I just wish they'd use him in less fluffy roles. So Outside of the Wire, 6.5 out of 10. From Salem, I think my third best album of last year, Fires in Heaven and Wings.